I thought the more money I made, the less problems I would have, the less anxiety around money I would have, the more safe I would feel, the more excited about life I would feel. And I couldn't have been further from the truth. As a business owner, I want to create this video to bring more awareness to the relationship with money that a lot of people have, and that more money in your business or in your job will not heal your relationship with money. I want to bring it back to coming back from a walk with my partner, and I said to him, I want to make this video about your relationship with money and that more money will not help you heal your relationship with money. And he said, yeah, for me, it's like when I have consistent amount of income, it makes me feel good. And I was like, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's not about the money that you make. It's about the relationship with money that you have despite the amount of money that you make. It clicked for me because I used to have, or I still have, a lot of conversations with people who grew up with a mindset around money that is not necessarily positive. It's all about, that there was never enough money, conversations about how money doesn't grow on trees, you shouldn't spend your money on yourself, or not a lot of money on yourself. I grew up in a household where there was always a lot of fighting around money, a lot of secrets around money, losing money due to gaming, things like that. And so early on, I learned money is not safe. There's never enough money. You have to work really hard to make money. And so there was a lot that I learned early on that I wasn't even aware of. And so I had this conversation with my partner, and of course we've been together for a while now, so I do know the way that he grew up because he has told me multiple times. And he grew up in a household where, the conversation has always been, there's always enough, don't worry about it. You can always rely on me, or there's always a way to make more money. And so he has had a very positive way of upbringing when it came to money, whereas for me, it was the complete opposite. And so when I started my business, I come from a background where I worked really hard. I still work very hard, and I defined myself by it always. I always define myself what a hard worker I am. And, I remember when I first started my business, I had no idea the amount of money that was possible to make. I always only saw, me getting a job and then making an income at the end of the month. And so when I started my own business, all of a sudden my income doubled and then tripled. And then it was 4 times the amount that I made before, and then 5 times. And I was like, oh my God, I am working the same amount, but I'm making more money. And I couldn't quite understand what was going on. And this is also another thing that I also want to bring into this conversation. At that time, I felt guilty. I felt like, how is this fair that I'm working the same like a person that has a job and I'm making a lot more? How is it fair that, I am working a lot, but there are so many people who are working a lot too and are not making this money? And at that time, COVID hit, I, started making a lot of this money. My mom had a restaurant, she had to close down. She was really struggling. And so there was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of, this isn't fair. There was a lot of, this is not normal. And so I sabotaged myself into making less again. And my income would just drop after I had this huge high that I didn't even expect would come, because I was literally just doing what I loved. And then my income went down again because I started focusing on it. I started focusing on the money. I started focusing on the relationship that I was having, not realizing I had this relationship until all of this stuff started to come up. And then things started to become really clear for me when I started to see my income coming down, and I was like, hold on, like, why is this happening? It can't be because of the amount of, hours I work, or because I'm doing something different. I had to look inside. And so when I looked inside, I realized that it didn't matter if I was making $2,000 a month or if I was making $20,000 a month. I always had an underlying fear around not making enough money, losing the money, feeling guilty about the money. And I remember a time came in my business where I made a significant amount in a month. And I remember I just calculated that amount, and I sat down and I said it to my partner. I was like, oh my God, I just made this amount of money. And I remember we wanted to celebrate. And so we got into the car. And as I'm sitting in the car, I'm starting to panic. I'm starting to shake. Like my whole body is like this. And I didn't know back then what was happening. I wasn't aware of it at all. I was just like, well, that's not normal. But I wasn't aware of what was truly going on. I was just shaking like this. And, later on, of course, as I continued doing this work, I learned my nervous system wasn't regulated. My nervous system didn't know how to hold this amount of money. Literally, that was my body trying to tell me, whoa, we gotta calm ourselves down. Like, we gotta be okay with that amount of money that we make, because my body in that moment thought it's not safe to make this money. If you're resonating with this, let me know down below. But in that moment, I had to learn that it was safe and it was okay to make the amount of money that I deserved to make that amount of money, and that I was okay to make that amount of money. I didn't do that. And again, I sabotaged myself. After that crazy month, my income dropped by 50%, and even more after that, because I didn't know what was going on. And it's interesting because despite me making more money, I was anxious, I was overwhelmed. When I started making less money, I started panicking. And so there was this constant focus on the money that was either coming in or not coming in, on the clients that were coming in, on where the money was gonna come in next month. And so I realized, Jess, ultimately, it doesn't matter if you're making 2K months, 20K months, 100K months, you will always feel this way unless you look deeper into healing your relationship with money. And so the first thing that I started doing was to understand my relationship with money. Because despite, I wanna say, people talking about healing their relationship with money, just because I grew up a certain way and I think about money a certain way doesn't mean that you feel the same around money. So the first thing that I've done is truly look at what am I thinking about money. And I did this exercise once that really helped me. I took out my wallet and I took out cash or credit card. You can do it with a credit card too. And I put it in front of me and I asked myself, how am I speaking to money? And so I started speaking out loud. And I started saying things like, I put you on a pedestal. You make me feel scared. You're very important in my life. I'm scared to lose you. I kind of hate you at the same time because you control my life. I do love you when you're there. And so I started having literally a one-way conversation to money, talking to money. And I was like, oh my God. Like, if money was a person right now, would that be a healthy relationship? Absolutely not. So then after I did that one-way street conversation, I thought to myself, what would money now say to me? And money would say to me, well, some of the days you love me, some of the days you hate me. When I'm around, you're anxious. When I'm not around, you're anxious. And so all of these things started to come to me, and I was like, there I have it. This is the relationship with money that I have. It's not just looking into my childhood and repeating the things that my parents would say, but truly now at this very moment when money is sitting in front of me and I speak to money, what are the things I say to money and what is money saying back to me? Because if money was a person, what kind of relationship would I have with money? And so it got to me. I was like, if I want to have a healthy relationship with money, I cannot speak to money this way anymore. I cannot put money on a pedestal anymore. And I also don't want money to feel this way about me, because I want this relationship with money to be a loving relationship. So if I have a lot of money, great. If I don't, great. I'm still okay, I'm still safe, and I'm not making it wrong. I'm not blaming money, or I'm not blaming money for the way that I feel. And so that is the first thing that I did. Really discovering what is my relationship with money, not what is my mom's relationship with money, and I have the same. Which, yes, of course, there's lots of parallels. I'm not saying it's not that way, but it really helped me understand it that way a lot more. And then I started to learn to regulate my nervous system. Your nervous system will tell you if your body feels safe or not. And your nervous system will tell you through different signs: anxiety, shallow breath, tension, pain, not being able to sleep, dysregulated hormones. Your body constantly speaks to you. And if your nervous system is not regulated, you will have symptoms. During this time where I really had an unhealthy relationship with money, I had horrible back pain. It was an emotional back pain. There was some trauma that I had early on, but there was a connection to the trauma and the money. And when I looked up what back pain meant, in my case, it was the lack of security that I had around money. And my lower back would flare up every time this relationship with money would flare up. I had to learn that money was also constantly speaking to me, but that my body was constantly speaking to me. So I had to put my nervous system into rest and digest, because it was constantly in fight or flight. So when you're in fight or flight, your body thinks there's danger. There's a lion trying to catch you, and all that your body is doing is thinking of surviving. If your body is thinking of surviving, your body will not thrive. Your hair will not grow, your nails will not grow, your body's not gonna digest food. Your body will not do the regular things, rest and digest, that your body would do. Because in this very moment, if your body is in a fight or flight situation, all your body thinks is we gotta survive. And so if you're thinking you have to survive, if your body thinks you have to survive, it's gonna be really, really hard for you to stay calm and to look at the situation from a neutral place. So I had to regulate my nervous system over and over and over again. I do think there are certain things that help regulate my nervous system and might be other things for you. Going on a walk in nature, one thing that really helps me. Breath work, taking deep breaths, meditating, tapping on my body, shaking my body. There's so many other things, so many tools that you can use to regulate your nervous system. If you want a full video on that, let me know. But all the time, when I was making less money, I regulated myself. When I was making more money, I regulated myself all the time. I repeated to myself that I'm safe, I'm okay, and the money doesn't define me, the money doesn't define my self-worth, which brings me to my next point. Later on, as a business owner, which was very different when I was having a job and I was making a regular paycheck, I never attached myself to money, and I never believed that my worth was reflected in money. When I then started my business, it started happening. I realized that because of so much input out there and so many people making lots and lots of money, and people talking about it, of course, there was a level of comparison, but also a level of attaching my self-worth to the money that I was making. So when I started making more money, I felt better about myself. I was like, Jess, you got this, you're superwoman, whatever. And when the money was dropping, I didn't feel worthy anymore. I didn't feel worthy of booking myself a massage. I didn't feel worthy of going on a walk because I was like, no, we gotta catch up. We gotta make that money again. And so I would start treating myself worse when I was making less money. And that is the worst thing you can do to heal a relationship with money. You still have to treat yourself like absolute royalty. I'm gonna go into overboard here, but truly, just because you making less money, yes, maybe if you don't want to spend that money on a massage, I get it. But still, allow yourself to sleep. Allow yourself to eat healthy food. These are the things that would come secondary for me. The moment my income was dropping, I was like, I can't allow myself a cup of coffee anymore. I can't allow myself to go on a walk anymore. I have to hustle. I have to keep making more money. And so my self-worth was so attached to that money. And so there was, again, a love-hate relationship with it, because when I was making more money, I was loving myself more. When I was making less money, I was not loving myself. That is when there was a very, very toxic relationship, not only with money, but also with myself. And I see this so often with business owners too, with entrepreneurs. There's so much self-worth tied to the amount of money that you make. And what I had to learn is I am worthy despite my success. I am worthy if I have one client or if I have 1,000 clients. I am worthy if I do a YouTube video or I stand on a stage in front of millions of people, right? I also then realized that this was also a childhood wound, because I was the one who was getting good grades and I was getting praised for it. I was the one who, had a lot of achievements in my childhood. And so I learned, achievements, self-worth, achievements, love, achievements, attention. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I know a lot of people have this attachment to it. And it would translate onto the money, because money to me meant success. And so success made me feel better about myself. It made me feel like now people can recognize me. Now people can love me. Now people can see me as worthy of all of that. And I had to realize I am beyond that. I am me because of who I am, not because of the achievements, not because of the money, not because of the success. The moment I learned to detach myself from it, that's when I saw my business as a business that generates money, but I didn't attach my self-worth to it anymore. It's still a daily job because it's so deeply ingrained, and something that every single day I remind myself of, that the money does not define my success, my self-worth, who I am, what I can achieve. But sometimes it creeps in, very honest, right? And when it does, I notice it though. And I notice it and I detach myself from it over and over and over again. So The detachment is another thing that has truly helped me look at money in a different way, look at it from a different point of view. I want to end this right here because those three things I do want to say have helped me. It's noticing how I speak to money, it's regulating my nervous system, and it's detaching my self-worth from the money that I was making and from the success that I was creating in my life and in my business. I do want to say the money that you make, it's not always going to be the strategy, right? So it's not only about what you put out and how much content you create. Content is key for sure. It's how it's going to call people in. But you can make a lot of content if you don't heal the relationship within yourself. If your energy is not aligned with that, you will feel stuck. And I found myself stuck many, many times in my business because I didn't look inwards. I didn't look at what was going on inside of me rather than always looking outside of myself. The people that do the inner work, that's when success will happen. And it's going to happen in a sustainable way, not in a way where, you have a lot of money at once and then you lose it all. Sustainable success is what we're looking for. And that's way more important than exploding overnight, making $1 million in a month and then losing it all or spending it all or not being able to maintain it. I really hope you resonated with this. If you did, please let me know down below. It would mean a lot to me. I'm sending you so much love. And until the next time, bye-bye.